My dear students, I know you're all busy with your last minute's preparation. And here you have 50 important questions from module 13 Literary Criticism and Theory. You should go through these questions and the previous question papers from 2003 to 2020 when I've already uploaded in my another video. Dear friends, don't worry about anything. Think positive and go ahead. So let's move on to the questions. The first question is The Laugh of Medusa was translated to English by Paula Cohen and Kate Cohen in 1976. It was originally published in 1975. The term écriture feminine was coined by Helen Sixu. Écriture feminine or feminine writing is a subvert the phallocentric discourse of masculine writing. She made use of Freud's and Lacan's psychoanalysis and Derrida's deconstruction. Who said woman must write herself, must write about women and bring women to writing. Helen Sixu in The Laugh of Medusa. Which are the classic texts that Sedgwick analyzed in her book The Epistemology of the Closet, published in the year 1990. Classic texts of European and American writers including Melville, James, Nietzsche, Proust and Oscar Wilde. The significant aspect of the backdrop of writing The Epistemology of the Closet was the personal and cultural toll of the HIV/AIDS crisis. The concept the closet refers to the metaphorical hidden space in which the non-heterosexual suppress the same-sex desire or live out the desire only in secret. The first text to provide a dualistic homo-heterosexual understanding of sexuality, which helped to lay the foundation of queer theory, the epistemology of the closet. Who described gender as a construction that one puts on as one puts on clothes in the morning? Judith Butler in Gender Trouble. What is the complete title of Judith Butler's book, Gender Trouble? Gender Trouble, Feminism and the Subversion of Identity. Subject of Sex, Gender and Desire is the first chapter of the book Judith Butler's Gender Trouble. She reconsiders the status of women as the subject of feminism and the sex-gender distinction. Subject of Sex, Gender and Desire begins with the codes of Simone de Beauvoir, Louise Irigaray, Julia Kristeva, Michel Foucault and Monique Wittig. Gender performativity is a term first used by the feminist philosopher Judith Butler in the 1990 book Gender Trouble. The concept of performativity is first described by the philosopher of language John L. Austin. Butler is against the man-woman notion and influenced by the deconstructive thoughts of Derrida. She deconstructed the notion of gender, and for her, gender has no stable meaning and gender is culturally constructed. A woman must have money and a room of her own if she is to write fiction. The above statement is from Virginia Woolf's essay, A Room of One's Own. The fetishism of commodities and the secret thereof is the final section of the first chapter of Karl Marx, Das Kapital, also known as Capital, a Critical of Political Economy. What does Marx say about commodity fetishism? In a capitalist society, commodities have only exchange value and no use value. Edmund Wilson's Marxism and Literature, published in the year 1938, is taken from The Triple Thinkers, 12 Essays on Literary Subjects by Edmund Wilson. It reflects his disillusionment with Marxism under the dictatorship of Stalin. Marxism and Literature is an evaluation of the impact of Marxism on art and literature and literary criticism. According to Edmund Wilson, Marxism is a great force of social change. According to Wilson, dash cannot be considered as a weapon for social change. Art and literature. Marx and Engels considered art as a weapon for social change, but for Edmund Wilson, art as a weapon is a myth. Elaine Showalter's Feminist Criticism in the Wilderness is an essay published in Critical Inquiry in 1981. Showalter starts her essay with a poem of Louise Bogan, Women. Showalter begins this essay by pointing out the dialogue by Dash and Dash, who identify two poles of feminist criticism: Caroline Heilborn and Catherine Stimson. The essay Feminist Criticism in the Wilderness is divided into 6 divisions, which are the two distinct modes of feminist criticism according to Elaine Showalter: feminist as a reader or feminist critic, or woman as a consumer of male produced literature. And second one is woman as a writer or gynocritic, and here woman is a producer of textual meaning. What was the first title of Biographia Literaria? Biographical sketches of my literary life and opinions. The Language of Paradox was the first chapter of Clonbrooke's essay, The Well-Wrought Urn, published in the year 1947. In Shakespeare and the Exorcist, Stephen Greenblatt marks the correlation between Hassanet book A Declaration of Egregious Popish and Shakespeare's King Lear. Archetypal Criticism, Theory of Myth is an essay in Arthur Fry's book, Anatomy of Criticism, published in 1957. Structure, Sign and Play, The Discourse of Human Sciences was a lecture given by Derrida in John Hopkins International Colloquium on the Language of Criticism and the Sciences of Man in 1966. The lecture was then published in 1967 as the chapter 10 of his book, Writing and Difference. The epigraph to Derrida's Structure, Sign and Play, The Discourse of Human Science is: epigraph from Monday, we need to interpret interpretations more than to interpret things. Discussing the anthropology of Dash, Derrida argues that we are all bricoleurs. Claude Lévi-Strauss. Derrida's original use of the word deconstruction was a translation of destruction, a concept from the work of Martin Heidegger, who was the original English translator for Of Grammatology, Gayatri Spivak. There is nothing outside the text is a key statement made by Rag Derrida. The language of poetry is the language of paradox. Who said? Clonbrooke in his essay, The Language of Paradox. The component of personality that operates according to reality principle is the ego. Id is the pleasure principle, superego is the morality principle. According to Freud, unresolved unconscious conflict often produce anxiety. Derrida's American disciples were Jeffrey Hartman, Paul Deman, J. Hillis Miller. Freud's essay Beyond the Pleasure Principle, published in 1920. In Beyond the Pleasure Principle, Freud describes two driving forces that motivate human behavior. Which are they? The death drive, also known as Thanatos, and the life force or Eros. The term cultural materialism is associated with Raymond Williams. According to Northrop Frye, there are 4 main narratives associated with the seasonal cycle of spring, summer, autumn, and winter. They are comedy, dash, tragedy, and irony or satire, which is the second one. Romance. The term public sphere was coined by Hugo Habermas in his essay The Structural Transformation of Public Sphere, published in the year 1962. He belongs to the Frankfurt School. Modernity, an unfinished project, was originally delivered as a talk in September 1980 when Habermas was awarded the Theodor Adorno Prize by the University of Frankfurt. The essay was published under the title Modernity versus Postmodernity in New German Critic. Who said modernism is dominant but dead? Hugo Habermas in his essay Modernity as Unfinished Project. Which writer applied the term cultural poetics to his own critical contribution to make literature and art as part of social practice? Stephen Greenblatt. The terms resonance and wonder are associated with Stephen Greenblatt. Stephen Greenblatt, one of the founders of New Historicism, has studied extensively on William Shakespeare. The plays mentioned in T.S. Eliot tradition and individual talent are Agamemnon and Othello. Tradition, institution, and formation is taken from Raymond Williams' book Marxism and Literature, published the year 1977. Dear friends, here ends our today's video. And in this video, I haven't included the questions from Cultural Studies, that is module 14. So that I've already uploaded as separate videos. So you should go through that questions too. Thank you.